Hello and welcome to the Big Bark Podcast, bringing you the latest news from the canine world. Each week we talk to different professionals working in the canine industry across Ireland, from pet shop owners to groomers, behaviour specialists and vets. We will be discussing hot topics with our puppy panel, reviewing the best products, food and treats, the best places to take your dog on a day out, and the most dog-friendly venues in Ireland. We'll also be chatting with dog owners to find out more about the bonds that make a dog man's best friend. Your host for this podcast is Dara Burke, a dog lover with a passion for canine psychology and behaviour. Dara's own dogs, Bruno and Millie, will also join in from time to time and will be sure to offer their own big bark along the way. Time to bring on your host and start the show.
Hello and a huge welcome to episode 1 of the Big Bark, a brand new and soon to be best doggy podcast brought to you by barkingmad.ie and coming to you from the heart of the Midwest of Ireland. My name is Dara Burke and I'm your host, and together with my canine co-hosts, our puppy panel and our special guests, we'll be focusing in on different topics from the canine world each week. So first of all, let me take a moment and introduce my two beautiful canine co-hosts. To my left is my wonderful 7-year-old Golden Labrador Millie, a complete and utter rogue with a heart of gold who loves nothing more than a good old cuddle, and her favourite thing to do is go for nice long walks and get rubs. We've had Millie now with us for 3 years, even though she's 7, we've had her for 3 years, and I really can't imagine life without her. On my right is Bruno, my absolutely really cool 3.5-year-old Bloodhound Cross Labrador. And now this amazing mix is known as a Bloodhound. Bruno came to us 3 years ago also, and right after I lost my own dog of 7 years at the time, Coco. Now, in that time, in that 3 years, he's been with me, as has Millie, through all the ups and downs. Now, Bruno is a complete brat, but he's the kindest and most caring dog going. He's absolutely mahoosive. But he still thinks he's a small little puppy who can sit right on top of my lap. And he doesn't actually realise that he's smothering me. And I don't think he really cares because he's getting attention. Together, these two dogs are my best friends in the world. As the series progresses, I'll give you a bit more insight into what Bruno and Millie get up to, what they mean to me, and how they've influenced my life for the better. So, what exactly are we going to be discussing in this podcast? Well, each week, we're going to focus on a couple of different topics. We'll be reviewing different products for your dogs. We'll be meeting canine professionals and business owners. And of course, we'll be meeting dog owners and their dogs to chat over a cup of coffee or a pint or whatever they fancy about what it is that makes a dog man's best friend. Now, I am confident this is going to be a very exciting podcast each week. So before we go any further, be sure that you hit that subscribe button, that one right there, hit that subscribe button right now. Okay, you've done that, great. So what's happening this week then? Well, later on the show we're going to talk about the need for a dog park in Limerick. As I mentioned, we're based in the Midwest of Ireland. Limerick is the main city, I suppose the capital city of the Midwest is how you'd put it. And in a city of over 100,000 people, we don't have a proper dog park. So we don't have a facility there just for dogs. At least not a publicly provided facility anywhere. At some point in time, as the show goes forward, I will try to be meeting one or two of the people that provide the indoor doggy fun parks, the private fun park that we actually have within the city, but we don't have a publicly provided dog park. So we're also going to be chatting about the public consultation for the review of the Control of Dogs Act. Now, if you're not aware, the Control of Dogs Act is effectively what legislates how well we control our dogs. It governs the restricted breeds list in Ireland and determines what restrictions are required if your dog is on this so-called list. We'll touch heavily on this and on the dog park with our guest later on the show, Tony McKenna. Tony is from the Barking Baker, and as the owner of the Barking Baker, he fits right into these two topics because Tony is also a dog trainer. So we'll be touching on those two topics with Tony, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that segment with you. We'll also be chatting to Tony regarding our first topic, and that topic is related to raw and natural feeding. So we'll be chatting to Tony about how beneficial the treats he makes are for our dogs, how to use completely raw and natural ingredients, and we'll talk to him a bit about his journey from dog trainer to natural treat maker and what was involved in that journey. Now, I'll be sharing a bit of my own personal experience regarding how canine nutrition is so important. So keeping with our first topic, I want to introduce our first guest right now without further delay. So our first guest on the show today is Sarah Hannon. And Sarah is the owner of Re-Raw Healthy Pet Treat up in County Cavan. It's an amazing company that provides wonderful beef and chicken jerky, which Bruno and Millie go absolutely, utterly crazy for. And I'm just going to demonstrate this right here. Millie has kind of nodded off right now, but I just want Millie to come over. Come here, man. Just want Millie to come over, and I'm going to put the microphone up so that you can hear exactly how crunchy these wonderful treats are. So when Millie takes a bite of this, you're going to hear now. Now, doesn't that sound yummy? And Millie definitely agrees that it's an absolutely yummy treat. So, as I said, without further delay, I'd like to introduce Sarah. Now, Sarah has a wonderful story. It's a story of hard work, determination, and to be honest, it shows that people like Sarah, her business, and the products that Sarah sells, these are the backbone of the Irish economy. Small, medium enterprises who provide employment locally, who give back locally and give back to charities as well. Sarah does wonderful work with a lot of different charities, and she's actually the sponsor of a number of our shows which will come after this one. And to be honest, I'm just going to let Sarah tell her story here, and I'm going to chat to you guys in a little bit.
Okay, so it starts out with a little bit of a sad story, which is that we had a lovely family pet called Mr. Fizz, and Mr. Fizz was basically the furry heartbeat of our home, and he became very ill. He ended up with diabetes and heart issues, and unfortunately had to be put to sleep. And talking to my vet, she was saying that really his diet was very processed. She was quite a raw feeding advocate, and she said his diet was far too processed, and that contributed to all of his health conditions. And we kind of looked into this a little bit more, and I couldn't see any treats that I really wanted to feed my dog, so I thought, I'll make some myself. And I started with one small dehydrator, which was in my conservatory, and was drying little pieces of heart and liver and kidney. And soon the word got out, and people kind of said, well, could you make me some treats for my dog? And it's gone from there. And we now have 3 dogs of our own who are all fed on our treats, and they are all our, our taste testers for all new products coming to market.
That's brilliant. That's really good. And originally, Sarah, you started off, I remember buying the treats from you when you first started off, and you originally started off as my Canine Cakery, am I correct?
I did, yes. Slightly different business altogether. So when I looked into the natural treats market, I thought, well, why don't I start with baked goods and just make biscuits that are free of additives and things like that. But I met a guy who became quite a strong mentor for me, who is very big in the raw feeding world, Dr. Connor Brady. And he basically turned around to me and he said, Sarah, you know what? Dogs don't need grain. What they need is meat. And you need to ditch the grain, and go with meat treats. And that was really the pivoting point for me. But not only that, Dara, I was hopeless. I mean, I've seen some of those beautiful cakes that are made for dogs, and they now do doggy donuts and doggy cupcakes and goodness knows what else. And the craft and the artistry that goes into some of those is unreal. And unfortunately, I have the artistic ability of a brick. So it wasn't ever going to work for me.
Okay, very fair. And you originally started off with, was it just beef liver jerky, or did you just start off with one or two flavours? Or?
Yeah, so it's been a case of you just try all different cuts of meat. We started with beef liver, and we perfected that. And then we moved on to other organs. So we moved on to the heart and the kidneys. And then we were kind of going, okay, well, we've done beef now. What else can we do? And we looked for chicken. And so we brought on board the chicken hearts, which are probably our biggest seller. And then we started looking at other animal parts. So, you know, we do things like the ears and the hooves and the paddywhack and the pizzles and all of those sorts of things. But I suppose what we have to do is we have to make sure that we perfect the product. We have a market for that product, and then we move it out. So, you know, for a long time, we only did the 5 treats, and the chew range that we've just brought on board has only been live now for about the last 6 months. And it's a slow process bringing anything new to the market, as I now know, because you have to have things shelf life tested. Everything has to be tested as well for its microbiology and its nutritional values. So there's a lot of work in bringing to the market a new product. You know, when you're starting out, you just kind of fire things into the dehydrator to see what works.
Sure, yeah. And just going back on that there, like, you started off doing this in your own kitchen, and you've grown now to a stage where you have your own factory. Did you ever back when you were using your small dehydrator in your conservatory, did you ever think that you would that it would grow that far, that you would have your own factory? Or do you still find that a bit surreal, or do you wake up?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing journey, and I think when you start off, I think the whole idea for me was that it was about making a great treat, which, you know, hopefully a few people would buy, and it would, you know, pay for my love of coffee, and that would be about it. And then you kind of go, you know what, I might get a little bit more ambitious, and start seeing if more shops will take it. And then it comes to a point where you have to start scaling up, and for me the biggest pushers in me scaling up to my factory have been the Department of Agriculture, because they follow, obviously we follow all the legislation to make sure that we produce safe treats, but you know, in terms of the safety and the way that we're policed, I think Ireland is ahead of Europe because, I get inspected very regularly. They look at all of my laboratory testing and all of those sorts of things, or all of the stuff that I have to comply with. And it doesn't make sense for the small producer to be doing that. The only way that you can really make it work is by going into a factory, and that's what we've had to do.
Yeah, I hear you. Definitely a lot of regulation around the food industry in Ireland, that's for sure. And that's not actually a bad thing in a way, because of while you say it can be too much for the small producer, at least consumers then know as well that they're getting a really good quality treat on the market, so they know that everything is above board. They know that the treats are top notch as well, which Bruno and Millie here, who are here next week, can actually tell us that they were so happy to get their box of treats yesterday. There's literally a full bag of them gone already, so they've been great testers here for us.
I mean, look, to me, the Department of Agriculture should be seen as our friend, because what they make us do, they do exactly that. They make us do it right, and there is no cutting of corners. So, we have to have our meat from regulated sources. I can't just go to the butcher and pick up meat. I have to go to one of the big processors, and they supply me with a whole raft of paperwork to say that this meat is of the right standard. And when the Department of Agriculture come in, what they look for is they look for everything to be traceable one step back and one step forward. So what that means is that I can trace a piece of meat back to the farm, and I can, when that goes out to a shop, the shop can also have that safety of knowledge that I know what batches of product they've got. If there's ever any issue, they can come back to me and we can do safe recalls. And it's all about safety. And you can either run away from that, or you can go, that's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and it certainly sounds like you've embraced that, which it's really good to hear. Now, given how much you've grown, there's a topic I want to touch up with here, and that is everything that's happened that's happened with Aldi lately, being picked up by Aldi to, I suppose, the recent unfortunate that just been pulled there in the last week or so. But do you want to tell me, first start, how? Yeah. How does it get picked up by a store like Aldi, who have how many hundreds of shops around the country? Yeah, I mean, Aldi, I am still in awe of Aldi, because Aldi have been one of our biggest supporters. I know that probably sounds a bit funny to say that, given that we didn't end up supplying them in the end, but let me just explain to you about the Aldi relationship, and that will give you an indication as to why this is an amazing company to do business with. So, number one, how did I get into Aldi? Well, I sent them a cheeky email, frankly, and they said, you know what, we would be interested. And this was when I was working in my porter cabin. And I went, okay, that's fantastic. When do you want me to supply you? And they said, well, as soon as possible. Here's an order. And I went, well, actually, I don't really have the facilities to do that at the moment. So they said, okay, that's fine. We'll give you another order in 6 months' time when you will be ready. And I had hoped to be ready because we had taken the lease on the factory. What I didn't realise was that whilst we had power, as in electrical power, we didn't have the right power to run our oven, which was three-phase power, and it's industrial power, basically. And trying to get that into the factory was a bit of a nightmare, and basically took from October until February to get that actually into the factory. So it took far too long.
And in the meantime, there's little conversations happening with Aldi, and they're going, look, it's okay, don't worry, come back to us when you think you can supply us. And once we have the electricity connected, we're ready. And they went, great, so you can be in the stores in July. And I went, yeah, absolutely, of course I can. Now, the oven that we have is obviously a big oven, and it's something that we have not really used very much. So maybe this is where I fell down a bit. We should have been testing it for months before we actually committed to such a big order. So, these are the learnings of a small business trying to do growth. And we worked, both myself and my colleague Jer, who works with me, we worked really, really hard. We were trying to put through the product through the oven, and it just wasn't working. It would break down, it would, oh my God, it didn't matter, it seemed to matter what we did, it wasn't playing ball with us. And we managed to get one pallet out to Mitchellstown, and that was great. And we were working on the second pallet. And the day that we were due to ship our second pallet, we had another 300 boxes to do, and it went on fire. I can laugh about it now. I was distraught at the time, and it went on fire, and it didn't matter what we did. I mean, not to the point where it burned down the factory, but to the point where the thing is just it's not usable. And and so I phoned Aldi and I explained, and initially they were kind of going, okay, what can you send us? What can you give us? And when I told them, okay, well, on the second pallet, we're probably going to only meet half of the order, they just had to make a very hard commercial decision. And they just said, look, best will in the world, it's just not enough product for all of our stores. And it doesn't make sense for us to put in, half pallets into our warehouse and all the rest of it. So, yes, it was a very sad decision, a very sad decision from them to pull the plug on us. But I completely understand. They're in business to make money. And they had cut me so many different chances. It's unbelievable. Now, I've had email contact with them, and it's still very warm. And it's still, look, they want us to get over our hurdles and to come back to them. So, I don't think we've blown our chances. But it was not what we wanted to happen. And so when I put up that post, I was actually sitting in Birmingham Airport. I was coming back from a family funeral. And I was sitting in Birmingham Airport, and I thought, oh, my God, tomorrow is Thursday, and the products are supposed to be on the shelf in Aldi, and they are not going to be on the shelf in Aldi. I need to put something up just to say why. And I was writing it out and kind of going, you know what, people are just going to roast me, absolutely roast me on this, and rightly so. And I sent it out into the social media land, and I started getting responses, and I was blown away, because rather than people roasting me on what I saw as a failure, they were rallying around me and going, we're really sorry. We really wanted these products in Aldi. Oh my goodness, I'll buy a box. And all of a sudden, that post that I did reached over 150,000 people without me paying for it to go big. It reached 150,000 people, and it had over 300 and something shares. And I'm still getting people coming in going, oh, I'm really sorry about your oven, and can I buy a box? And I am genuinely in awe of the generosity of the general public. And From that, we've also got onto the shelves now of pet stock. They've come back to us and they've said, we'll stock you. Lots of little groomers have come in and gone, look, we'll stock you as well, which is fabulous. And there's a couple of really big things happening as well behind the scenes, which I can't say anything about at the moment. But, just some amazing things have come out of that from reaching out and saying, I'm really sorry and I'm devastated. It's not, when I wrote that, I thought it was the end. It was I was just going to come home and cry for months and be very upset. And actually, it's an incredibly positive story and one that should be shouted from the rooftops. That the generosity of people is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And it's so good to see that support. It's so good to see people rallying around you, and it's so good that you still have that relationship there with Aldi. That they haven't just said to you to excuse my friendship, but they haven't said to you to piss off. They haven't told you no, we're done with you. They're actually still in contact, which means, by the sound of it, they still want you in. So hopefully you'll get to that stage. Hopefully you'll get to the stage where you're on the shelves in Aldi, on the shelves in other big stores as well, which will be great to see. I suppose, for me, they're brilliant treats. The two dogs here love them. My last dog, who you would remember, Coco, absolutely adored them. I often have videos of her when I bought them off you, and she jumping up and down, and the minute she see them, she was so happy to get the treats.
Yeah.
And I still even remember the time that she wasn't well, and you even sent her down a bag of treats and a little, one of your homemade little heart treats to say, get well soon, Coco.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Coco very, very well. So.
And Sarah, it's great to see that, and it's great to see companies like yourself growing to this level, because one of the big things that I'm about will be buy Irish, shop local, and it's always been the way I've been, and it just shows nowadays as well how much support is there for Irish businesses, which is really needed in this day and age.
It is. Absolutely. And we've got the big threat of Brexit round the corner, and it's needed even more, because we don't know what's going to happen with that and how that will affect us going forward. And obviously we just have to keep being positive and pushing our products. But it does need a mind shift in people to kind of go, you know what, I'm not going to go with the mass-produced stuff. I'm going to actually look for high quality Irish produce. And, we do the best meat in the world, for goodness sake. We really do. And, those products I'm very proud of them. And, to make a product which absolutely has no additives, no preservatives, no derivatives, nothing. All that happens is that when that comes in to our factory, it goes into the oven. It comes out of the oven when it's done, and it is bagged and packed and sent off somewhere. You can't get more natural than that. I think we do need to bang the drum a little bit about all the other little Irish, manufacturers and companies out there that are really trying to blaze a trail in this.
Yes, I completely agree with you there. And even just what you're saying there, about the ingredients being 100% meat, when the box of treats arrived yesterday, and myself and Jen were looking at them, she was admiring them because she had never actually seen them before. And she looked at the ingredients on the back and she thought, chicken. And her first reaction straight away was, well, that's not. I was like, it's literally 100% chicken. And that's the thing, so many people are expecting to see all these preservatives, these additives on any of these treats. But in your case, it is literally 100% meat, which I love about that. And I do love feeding it giving it a treat to the two dogs here.
Yeah. Yeah, at least you know that actually, and the other great thing about them is that, it is one meat type per pack. So, if you look in a lot of the commercially made products, you see animal derivatives, and that's a mixture, basically, a mishmash of meats and of animal proteins and all the rest of it. Now, that could be great for on one batch for a load of food that is made. But on another batch, it could be a different mix of animal derivatives, which causes all sorts of issues and difficulties. And, at least with ours, if your dog is sensitive to beef, okay, well, you don't have to give them beef. You can give them chicken and vice versa. So, there is I know it's only beef and chicken, but generally speaking, you'll find something in that range that will suit. And hopefully, you never know, we might bring something a little bit different again to the market. But I don't know whether we do any exotic animals here in Ireland that we can harvest. I think that's the only problem.
I don't believe we do. We're not that exotic here anyway. With the temperature rising, who knows?
Who knows?
Well, look, it's been actually, before I leave you off, that's probably the last question I'm going to ask you. How big do you see this going? Like, where do you mentioned Pet Stop, you mentioned how many other stores are looking at getting you in. Where do you want to see this going, and where do you see it going?
I really want to grow, and I really want to go pan-European. We've dabbled a little bit in certain countries. We've sent product into smaller pet shops. So we've done Switzerland, we've done a bit in Germany, we've done a bit in France. As we sort of establish ourselves more, obviously we'll be able to look into doing those things a lot more. I definitely, we do an awful lot in the UK. I don't ever see the UK going away as a market for us because, Ireland and the UK are just too linked together. And I think our products sit well in store over there. And we already have quite a good network in the UK. I definitely see Europe. I don't know whether I see outside of that. Maybe we need to focus on that for the next 5 years, and then we see where we go from there after that. But I'm passionate, Dara, about the idea of adding jobs. We live in on the border counties, so obviously based in Cavan, and job opportunities are hard to come by for certain sectors of the population. I would love to offer maybe apprenticeships to people. I would love to see an opportunity to take on people with learning difficulties, because some of our jobs could fit very well with people that have learning difficulties. And returners to work. I'm passionate about being able to give opportunity, and that is something that I really want to be able to do over the next year. The knock with the Aldi order has slightly put me back a couple of months, but we move forward with our plans nevertheless, and we hope that by November we will have an employment total in here of 5. And then we'll be adding to that, obviously, as we go forward.
Alright, and thanks very much, Sarah. So the whole way through that, I had Millie right here next to me, looking at me, and Jesus, she almost pushed me off the couch. So, okay, that should really be in the bloopers, but I'm going to leave it then. So I'm Millie looking at me here, as I say, give me more. These dogs are in love with these treats. And I really can't blame them. When I open a bag of these treats, either the chicken or the beef ones, when I open the bag of them, I just want to have one myself, because they smell so beautiful. But if I had one, the dirty looks I would get would say enough, and I wouldn't be in the good books with these two beautiful doggies. But I picked up a box of 10 bags of these treats from Sarah a couple of days ago. And honestly, I was one of the people when I saw Sarah's post go up on Facebook. I said, yes, I'll support you. I want a box of treats. And like myself, so many others gathered around her. So many people supported her. And it's wonderful to see that. And it was wonderful to hear Sarah's story, and I really hope to have her on again in a few months. So keeping with treats, I got to have a look at some wonderful grain-based treats made by Tony McKenna, who is the owner of the Barking Baker. Now, the Barking Baker operates out of the Milk Market in Limerick every Saturday. The Milk Market itself is a wonderful, amazing venue. It's magical on a Saturday morning. Actually, particularly coming up to Christmas, it's an amazing venue to go to visit. So, Millie is getting tired of me doing all this podcasting stuff and it keeps hitting my screen. So, I'm one who just loves natural treats for my dogs. And as you can probably tell here, Millie wants more treats, so Millie loves them too. So in a while, I'm going to chat a bit about my own experience regarding canine nutrition. But first of all, I want to introduce you to Tony. I want to hear a bit about his journey, and I want you to all experience what it's like for Tony to have gone on the journey that he's on. And while you're listening to that, I'm going to go away and hopefully make a cup of coffee, and I'll let you guys listen to this next clip. And if I ever get to make that cup of coffee, it'll be great, because the last clip I was just loving Millie the whole way through it.
Well, the Barking Baker, the history of the road to get us to the Barking Baker is multi-checkered, but I suppose to talk about the business itself very briefly, we are a business entirely dedicated to the production of freshly baked organic dog treats. So I'm an obedience trainer, so that's the background I'm coming from. So we're always looking for the highest value rewards for the dog. So we're not just trying to make a little bit of money out of this. We're trying to come from it as ethical a standpoint as we possibly can. So we don't use any salt, sugars, preservatives, things like that. It's entirely fresh, and just trying to provide the best value for money, provide a little bit of dog-related education as well from a behaviour point of view, and hopefully convince people that the treats we're offering work for the reasons we say they work, if that makes sense. My own specific background is in performance, which is what took me to, I suppose, the provision of a training class. My background in acting seems to be a help to that, because there's an element of performance and engagement and entertainment with that as well. We would always say in training, if you're having fun, your dog is having fun. So it's up to me as a trainer to make sure that the client is first relaxed, calm and having fun, so that the dog can respond in kind. So I suppose my original introduction into the whole world of dogs, I would have had dogs as a kid growing up the same as everybody had, but would have treated them in a very Irish way, I suppose, if that's not being too offensive to the population of the country. But all the wrong things, the wrong types of food, the wrong kind of instruction for the dog, doing the wrong things, rubbing the pee in the nose and all that kind of stuff that just doesn't work, that we've all found out since. So I spent almost 20 years working as an actor, and while I was touring with the show, I had a really bad car crash. And it was while I was recovering from the car crash that I started doing a bit of volunteering with the DSPCA. And once I started volunteering there, it was only then that I realised that I actually possibly have maybe not a gift, but a small bit more affinity with dogs than I previously realised I had. So after volunteering in the DSPCA for a couple of years, I went on to complete my obedience training internship with the King of Paws Academy, which is run by Alex Petrelli. They'd be affiliated to the Academy for Dog Trainers. So again, coming from the strongest possible point we could in terms of that kind of education. I ran a boarding kennels then for 5 years. And went from that, as I say, because I'm a trainer and I'm always looking for the highest values treats and the greatest motivation for the dog, it seemed to make sense to start moving in that direction. So we've been doing that since October of last year. Okay, so at the moment we're offering a range of 5 treats. We're using entirely human-grade organic produce. So our first product was the doggy biscotti. So we have 3 types of biscotti. One of them is made with an organic loin of beef that's roasted in some coconut oil. To that, we've added some cheddar cheese, some turmeric, some porridge oats. So again, the quality that we're introducing is always of the highest possible quality that we can locate. Then we have 2 smaller biscotti with cranberry, carob powder, a mixed seed for the omega oil hit. That we provide a very, very high value liver treat, which in obedience training I have found gets the best response. Again, the health benefits are liver in terms of iron, vitamin B, copper that dogs actually need, and a lot of people don't realise it's quite important in the diet. So again, that one, I suppose our big Scotty with the loin of beef and our liver hounds would at the moment be our best seller. And then we make up what we call the doggy bag. We've got the full Irish Bark Fest. So I suppose a lot of it is about working with a play on words, along with, so again, we're trying to introduce as much of a sense of fun as we possibly can, because as we always say, if your dog's having fun, or if you're having fun, your dog's having fun.
Damn right, if I'm having fun, my dog is having fun, Tony. That is definitely for sure. I look at these 2 beautiful dogs next to me. They will have fun if I'm having fun with them, which is true for any dog owner. I think by now Millie has kind of worn herself out, and Bruno is long knocked out at this stage. He tends to conk out most evenings until I use the magic word. I'm not going to say it, I'm going to spell it WALKIES, because I'd actually be afraid that Millie can spell too. I'm fairly sure that she can. Once I use that word, it's like a magic wake-up word or something for them. So that is all I have to say on raw feeding for now. And I hope that the 2 segments that we did with both Tony and Sarah, I hope you enjoyed those. Now it's time to move on to our next topic. That topic, the Control of Dogs Act. And okay, so just to give you a quick understanding, the Control of Dogs Act, it governs if your dog should be on a leash, should have a muzzle. It dictates this restricted breeds list, which I hate using that word, restricted breed. You'll hear from Tony again on this later on. I'm going to give you a little background of what the public consultation that the government have announced. The consultation is called A Review of Measures Relating to the Control of Dogs in Ireland. This is running from the start of July to the 6th of September. So it's open to the public. You can submit your feedback on this to the Department of Rural and Community Development. Now, this department is asking a series of questions. Let me very quickly go through those questions. So there is a total of 10 questions in this document. First of all, should the legislation that is currently in place be amended to include notices similar to those that are in place in Scotland and Northern Ireland? So basically they're looking there at different rules that are in place in relation to restricted breeds in Scotland and Northern Ireland. And also looking in question 2 at our different approaches in other jurisdictions that could and shall be considered. Now, the next question is a real picking point for people, and anyone I've spoken to so far on this is completely against the option A. Question 3 states, should neutering be A, encouraged more, or be required, either for dogs generally, for male dogs, or for specific dogs for which any notices have been issued, and for those listed in the Control of Dogs Regulations 1998 or future amended version of that list. This list that they're referring to is the restricted breeds list. Let me tell you what's on that list. Most of you notice. You have the American Pit Bull Terrier, you have the Bull Mastiff, you have the Doberman Pinscher, you have the English Bull Terrier, you have the German Shepherd, you have Japanese Akita, the Japanese Tosa, you have the Rhodesian Ridgeback, you have a Rottweiler, you have Staffordshire Bull Terriers, also known as Staffies, and you have the Bandog. Many of you listening to this own some of these breeds, and you will definitely tell me that your dog is the most gentle dog going. And you know what? I really do believe you, because I think this list is absolute utter crap. There is no such thing as a restricted breed. There can't be. And Tony, who is a dog trainer for years, will also testify to this. How can you judge an entire breed. Sure as hell is this not racism for dogs. Like, you are judging an entire breed based on one or two incidents. That is only to do with irresponsible owners who cannot and will not train their dog and who put fear into their dogs. Dogs don't want to be violent. They don't want to be vicious. They just want to be loved. Sure, there's some incidents where you do find dogs can attack for what seems to be, to people, no reason. But there is always a reason. And as Tony will also say, a dog will give you plenty of warnings. So, if anyone believes that the likes of Rottweilers, the likes of German Shepherds, should be on a restricted breeds list, should be muzzled, should be completely confined to what some people would see as being confined to a cage, well, I'm sorry, that's just wrong. There is no such thing as a bad breed. There is only a such thing as a bad owner. Obviously, these dogs have to be on a strong lead, led by a person who's capable of controlling them, securely muzzled whenever they're in a public place. Let's go back to the Nuhian one for a minute. I kind of skipped. They're looking at one option, which is to either neuter all dogs or neuter male dogs or specific breeds. You have problems right there with that. You are wiping out that breed. Maybe not straight away, but if you are requesting that all dogs within a certain breed be neutered, eventually that breed is going to become extinct. You put these regulations on people, it simply doesn't work. These regulations, these restricted breeds lists, have not worked since they were introduced. And you'll hear from Tony, like I said, in a few minutes, why. So the main questions are being asked here. Should there continue to be a list? If so, why? If there is a list, should any breed be added or should any breed be removed? If there is a list, should the requirements be changed to make them more or less stringent? So, having requirements related to places other than public places, like what? In your bathroom, in your house? I can't even describe a word for this part. Should the measures that are currently in place for these restricted breeds relating to leashing and muzzling in public places apply to all dogs regardless of their breed? What a dumb question. I have two beautiful dogs here. I have a Labrador crosshair bloodhound. I have a golden Labrador. These are the two most gentle dogs I have ever met. They are the friendliest dogs. I would never in my life put a muzzle on either of them. So there is no hope in hell that any legislation could ever come in that would make you put a muzzle on a King Charles, on a Labrador, on a Dachshund, on any of these gentle breeds. Fair enough, people are afraid of some restricted breeds. I get that. But these beautiful, gentle breeds that are family pets for years, and now all of a sudden just talks that they want to muzzle and leash these breeds constantly when they're in public. I'm sorry, there is no way that can happen. And I, for one, will be giving my opinion on this, and I've already submitted one opinion, which probably hasn't proven too popular with them, but I, for one, will not be standing for that. I've got that clip coming up with Tony. Tony is going to be in full agreement with me here, I guarantee you, on this, about restricted breeds.
There can't possibly be such thing as a dangerous breed, because all dogs have different experiences. We would often say in training, it's never the dog's fault. It's the owner's fault. If the dog is doing something, or you will often hear the dog bit for no reason, which is never the case. The dog bit for a reason that the owner didn't spot or didn't realise. But in the lead up to a potential bite happening, the dog has, without many people knowing, displayed an entire range of behaviour to let everything and everyone in the vicinity know that it's not comfortable with the situation. The last port of call for a dog is the bite. Before that, the dog will have gone through an entire ladder of information, from the position of the ears, how taut the musculature is, whether they're licking their lips, yawning. They've actually offered us behaviour to say, I'm not comfortable with the situation, I've told you how. So the bite is really the dog saying, I told you I was uncomfortable. So it's up to owners to be, I think, in this day and age, far more responsible with how they treat their dogs, and understand that the dogs are always looking to us for what the rules in life are. If we don't provide those rules in a caring, loving, compassionate way, then the potential for the dog to become stressed out by a situation that it doesn't understand is always going to escalate and be exacerbated. So through training and instruction and compassion and care, we can show the dog that the picture in front of it isn't necessarily threatening. And I would, in training class, I would always say, think where your life is a rolling film. Your dog's life is more a series of photographs. So imagine you've walked around a street corner when you're taking your dog out for a walk. You've just walked around a corner in the rolling film of your life. But your dog has walked into a new picture that it must instantly scan and ask itself, is there anything here that I can eat? Is there anything here that can eat me? Is there anything here I can mate with that wants to mate with me? What's been here? They're always looking, because it is far more recently that dogs were preyed upon by other animals. So they are still to some degree hardwired to think there might be something around the next corner that could do me some serious damage. So we can show the dog through positive reinforcement and consistent positive reinforcement that the next corner doesn't entail any danger. It's about the dog walking around the next corner going, I wonder what's here, rather than, oh my God, I wonder what's here. And it's up to us to provide that instruction. But this notion that there are restricted or dangerous breeds is an unprovable myth. Absolutely unprovable. People look at the dog and they judge the dog based on how the dog looks. And people get uncomfortable with the likes of maybe pit bulls and things like that, which have a ridiculously bad press. Or we'll take a Rottweiler. Your Rottweiler is the most gentle, goofy, brilliant, playful dog you could ever come across. But because they have been mishandled and used maybe inappropriately, they've gotten a bad name. It should be the people who treated those dogs like that have the bad name and not the dog. So we can take any dog and show it the pictures we want, irrespective of breed, and show it the necessary pictures it needs to be comfortable with in order to survive in the world and react the way we want it to. So it's just about consistency, providing the right instruction with compassion, and then any dog, irrespective of what its breed is, has the ability to be an absolute wonder. One of my dogs at home is a Retriever Samoyed Cross. He's got about 400 pounds of pressure in his jaw. He can do any amount of damage that he cares to. It's just that he's well trained and he doesn't care to. So when he sees new things, he gets excited about them. Because in the earlier part of his life, I showed him as many pictures of life. I took him to as many places. I took him in heavy traffic. I took him in down country lanes. I introduced him to children, men on bikes, men in hats, women in dresses. To the dog, they're all different things. So if we can allow the dog in that critical learning phase of its life to experience as much of the world in as many different facets as it possibly can, then it will only approach everything subsequent with joy. I'm fairly sure that those two dogs were badly treated, not shown what the rules were, maybe got stressed out about people coming close to them, maybe got lost and didn't know where they were. I'm not sure the details of the case, so I couldn't speak to the case specifically. But there isn't any reason for a dog to attack unless the dog hasn't been shown what the necessary rules are, especially around people.
Completely agree.
So yeah, to say that now all of those type of dogs to be on the restricted breed list, for a start, it makes no sense. It's unpoliceable. It's unworkable. So the list doesn't make sense. It's about time that people who are making these rules and laws maybe brought themselves up to speed with where the leading lights in canine behavioural science are at the moment, and maybe follow that instruction. And any leading light, you take the likes of, we'll say for example Gene Donaldson in San Francisco, who runs the Academy for Dog Trainers. The Culture Clash would be an ideal book for people to start if they wanted to get a handle in well-written terms on where the canine behaviour is at the moment. Any of those leading lights in the dog industry or in the training industry or the behaviour industry would never say that we should restrict an entire breed. They would always say we come from compassion. The dog is looking, begging you to tell it what the rules are. Please do. So maybe if people who are making laws and rules look to what those people are saying, we could arrive at and come up with regulations and rules that were actually workable and made sense. That's all people are looking for, something that's workable and makes sense and has a bit of compassion attached.
people are looking for something that makes sense. Some of the questions in that documentation that I've read just don't make sense. Like I said earlier, muzzling a Labrador, muzzling a Cavalier King Charles, muzzling every breed, I'm sorry, but no. Just simply, no, it does not work. Let's move on to topic number 3. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this over the last 10 years or so. Limerick is a city of over 100,000 people. It does not have any proper public facilities for dogs. Okay, you have your parks. You can take your dog in there leashed. You can take your dog for a walk around. The minute the park warden sees you with the dog off the lead, he literally comes over yelling at you. Now, fair enough, these guys have a job to do. But what are we meant to do? We need a publicly provided dog park in the city. It's something that has been talked about before. There have been a number of different committees. Every time they have faced non-stop opposition from Limerick City and County Councils. The County Council and City Council merged back in 2014. Even at that, still no headway on this. There was a great committee back then. Every time they went to meet with the council, they got the long finger. More like they got the middle finger. The council didn't want to know about it. The council are afraid of insurance. The council are afraid of who's going to pay for this. But yet, now I've spoken to so many people, and I'm going to be speaking with a lot more over the next few weeks about this, trying to actually get a plan together. But it doesn't matter what kind of plan you put in place. I can promise you that the City Council will not give the go-ahead for this, because they never have. And they just don't want to. And, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. If there is any city or county councillor out there that is listening to this podcast, you can meet with me. Simply email thebigbark@barkingmad.ie. Just send a quick note, say you want to meet with me, you want to discuss this with me, think it's a great idea. Great, I'll meet with you. Not one of them will bother their arse to email me by the next podcast, which is in a week's time. So, we need a dog park in Limerick. Now, I know there's a lot of regulation that needs to be put in place. There's a lot of policies that need to be put in place. But people are willing, these committees have been set up before, are willing to work with the dog warden. We're willing to work with the county council. I am willing to work with the county and city council on this. There can be strategies put in place. It doesn't all need to be publicly funded. It can be a case of some of the funding can come from crowdfunding. It's a very popular thing nowadays. I am fairly sure there are dog owners in the region who would be more than happy to actually donate 15, 20 quid. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but I know if it was a case that crowdfunding was an option, I'd definitely be contributing to that. The council probably still won't be up for that. If it was the case of crowdfunding, the council, who knows, they might just take the money and use it for something else. We don't know. I talked with Tony on this because Tony has mixed views on this. Now, the reason Tony has mixed views is because of his experience with dog parks when he lived in Dublin. So, I'm going to get his opinion on this, and I'm going to see what he thinks in general. So, I'm going to play that clip right now.
My thoughts on a dog park are... I would be very, very much in favour of as many dog parks as we possibly can. I do think they should be supervised, because we'll go back to the case of those two staffies. Somebody owned and was responsible for those two staffies, and without them being trained or instructed appropriately in how to behave in the world, they went and did whatever damage happened to that poor lady, which is terribly, terribly unfortunate. So because there are still owners there who may not be as willing as they need to be to engage with positive training, it wouldn't be fair to allow those kind of people, without being too restrictive, access to the same facilities without making sure that they've taken the necessary steps to train and control their dog, because that's their job. It's the job of the owner. So once all owners and the potential for any flashpoints and dangers get up to speed, then it's probably going to be easier for the legislation to follow that. If you know, I think action needs to be taken from both sides. A dog park is a fantastic idea. It needs to be well controlled. It needs to be well monitored. The first dog park I went to in Dublin when I got my retriever Samoyed when he was a pup, we weren't there 10 minutes before somebody else arrived with a Malamute or else a very large husky, but they're quite similar anyway, who had no boundaries, no rules, and within 5 minutes I had to pick up my pup and leave. So that was my first and only experience with that dog park. So because it wasn't supervised. So there is a good bit of work to be done on all sides. So the people attending the dog park, they need to be clean. They need to bring poo bags. Yeah. You know, all of those things. A lot of people still aren't doing things like that as well. So I think, you know, the burden of responsibility isn't necessarily entirely on legislators and lawmakers. It's on people who are going to use those facilities to make sure that they're going to use them correctly for the benefit of everybody, including their dog. So that's really, really necessary. Because it only takes one dog that's out of control to create mayhem in a place like that. Absolutely. So definitely all for it. I think somebody in some way qualified or trained in being able to spot canine behaviour, what the flashpoints are, should be in place to monitor those situations. But yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that that isn't in place. Yeah. That in this day and age we're still talking about the need for that. I think, you know, when you're mentioning countries like France and Japan and stuff like that, places like the west coast of America, all of that stuff is already in place. It's not even thought about anymore. So we do have quite a bit of catching up to do here, and you know, hopefully it'll happen quite soon.
Hopefully it's right, Tony. Hopefully it's right. So, I just want to go back short bit there. In that clip, you may have heard Tony mention two staffies. Now, that was slightly inaccurate. There was two staffy type breeds that we were talking about. It was in relation to an inquest into, unfortunately, they have a lady in Galway. The inquest was held recently about a woman who was attacked so severe by two dogs. They weren't actually staffies, but they were two dogs which apparently looked like staffies. Now, the breeds are actually called Fassa Canario breed. They're a type of staff, I believe. I can't be 100% sure on that, but this lady was killed by these two dogs at her son's home, and it's very unfortunate to see. These two dogs, this breed, was not actually on the restricted breeds list. So I think a lot of the questioning around the Control the Dogs Act and this public review in particular, a lot of this probably comes from incidents like this. In that aspect, I can understand in one way where and why they want to change these laws and why they want to look into these laws, but at the same time, these dogs weren't on that list, so it's proof that any dog can react. But again, this all comes down to owner and training behaviour. It doesn't come down to the breed itself. I do want to move on very quickly, and I do want to touch on one final thing with Tony, and that's his plans for the future. And I see bright things in the future for Tony. I see bright things for the Bark and Baker, and I really hope it does, because it's such a brilliant, awesome brand. It's local, it's Limerick Tipperary really, because Tony is actually living out in Tipperary, near enough to Nina. I hope I'm right on that, Tony. But I want to know what's next on him, and I asked him that. I want to see where he plans on taking this, and where he plans on going with the Bark and Baker, and how awesome and brilliant he can actually make this. Okay, let's hear the final clip from Tony.
Next, well, the next thing for us, and I'm working on a recipe at the moment, is the snuffle truffle. So again, along with the recipes, we do like a little play on words. So that's going to be a lamb-based treat. I'm not saying too much more about that. Everyone's going to have to come down and visit the Bark and Baker in the next couple of weeks to see what that looks like. So what's next? We've recently started branching out from the Limerick Milk Market, and I'm going to stop for a second because I want to pay particular tribute to everybody in the Limerick Milk Market. It's a fantastic place. I would recommend that anybody come, grab a cup of coffee and just have a look around for 5 minutes. But in terms of the welcome, the ease of having set up my business here has been just fantastic. In terms of advice from other stall holders, the people that work here, it's been seamless and so easy and so much fun. Setting up here on a Saturday morning is like, it's almost like being in a Dickens novel. It's fantastic. The atmosphere, the energy of the place is brilliant. So what we're hoping to do at the moment is maybe look to maybe 2 or 3 other markets in different areas of the country so that we have more of a national reach. We've also been done a couple of shows with the DSPCA over the last couple of months. We did Pets in the City in Smithfield. We did the DSPCA dog show at the DSPCA site in Rathfarnham about a month and a half ago. So it's about attending those kind of events. We're finding that farmers markets, agricultural shows, family events, they're the kind of places that we're going to go, and hopefully maybe over the course of the next year and a half we'd like to maybe move into supplying a bit of retail and stuff, but we really don't want to sprint at this. We want to take it at a reasonable pace, learn everything that we need to learn, so that we're always making sure that we're not cutting corners, we're not providing an inferior product at any stage. We're perfectly happy to make our bit of money, learn our bits and pieces, and expand slowly. So yeah, a couple more farmers markets over the course of the next year, and then maybe into a couple of local retail outlets initially. That's what we're heading.
Absolutely.
Alright, and thanks very much once again to Tony and to Sarah for joining me today. That's all we have for the show this week. We didn't have a puppy panel for you this week, but that I'm hoping will actually start in episode 3. It hasn't started just yet, but my plan is that by the time episode 3 comes around, I will have my puppy panel, and who knows, we might have a bit of fun. We might introduce, or not might, we are going to introduce some games. Again, they will come in episode 3. We have a very special episode to come next week. Next episode is going to be all about animal welfare. And the plan is that we take a trip out to Limerick Animal Welfare Sanctuary for their open day, which is coming up in the next week. And we have a chat outside there with Marion, with Geraldine, and with Chris, 3 of the directors outside who do such amazing work. We'll be looking at a few other bits and bobs, but overall we'll be mainly focusing on animal welfare. We will have a special guest business, who is Kelly from Purple Wolves in Dublin. We will have Kelly on the next show. And we will also be speaking to Mairead from our vets out in Tipperary Town. All that and more to come on episode 2 of The Big Bark. And I'm going to go off now and take Millie for a nice long walk along with Bruno. Bruno doesn't look too bothered about going for any walk right now, but Millie is here slapping me and giving me digs and everything else along the way because Millie wants her walkabout now. Well, look guys, it's been a pleasure. And from me, from Millie, from Bruno, have a barking mad week, and we'll see you next week.